It was beautiful and sunny about 5 minutes ago.
Today's video is going to be highlights from our biking tour from Copenhagen to Berlin following the Eurovelo 7. For this trip, I brought my bike with me in a cardboard box from San Francisco, and my friend did a one-way bike rental using one-way bike tours. He picked up his bike in Copenhagen and dropped off in Berlin. I'll post a link to their website in the description below. We arrived in Copenhagen around noon, and we stayed at the Clarion Hotel, which is attached to the airport, and they allowed me to keep my bike box there for the duration of our bike tour. For the rest of the evening, we strolled around Tivoli, which is the world's second oldest amusement park. Strolling through, you can really see where Walt Disney got a lot of the ideas for Disneyland. We also walked around Nyhavn, which I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong, but it's also the new harbor. Back at the hotel, I unboxed and reassembled my bike. All in all, it took about 20 minutes. Alright, we're on our way. Our first full day, we're headed to pick up our bike rental in Klampenborg. From the airport to the bike shop is about 40 minutes by using the metro. And we didn't realize it at the time, but there's a time restriction where bikes aren't allowed in the stations at certain hours. So an hour into our trip and we're already feeling like idiots. There's definitely plenty of bike parking on the train. This is the shop where we picked up the rental bike, and we were on our way within 20 minutes. The shop is only 100 feet from the train station, so it only took a minute to get there. The bike came with a lock, a set of panniers, and a toolkit. First impression of the bike trails, they're amazing. They are lit at night, they're perfectly paved, they're completely isolated from cars. This seems like the most ideal bike path. We didn't realize it at the time, but right next to the bike shop where we picked up the bike is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's called the Parforce Hunting Grounds, and it would make for an amazing afternoon of biking. And it's also home to the world's oldest amusement park. You'll see this in part 2 of my video. We spent the day biking through these quaint little towns and just following the coast. We really loved all these dedicated bike bridges that cut you diagonally through the town. I thought it was cool that IKEA has bakfiets rentals. A lot of the intersections within the city of Copenhagen had these rails where you could stop your bike and rest while you're waiting for the light without getting off your bike. We made our way out of the city center and eventually along the coast of Koge Bay, and the scenery is beautiful. It's all isolated bike paths. The Eurovelo route is well marked. They don't want you speeding through here, they want you to stop and enjoy the scenery, and that's what we did. And that pretty much wraps up day 1. The weather was perfect, the bike trails felt safe, flat, and beautiful scenery along the way. Day 2, we woke up to an amazing breakfast at our hotel. We didn't book our hotel in advance, we just biked until we got tired, and we ended up staying at the Koge Strand. They had this really cool over-engineered cheese slicer. The morning started off with a little bit of rain, but it wasn't freezing cold, so we were fine just with a rain jacket and some shorts. I'm using clip-in SPD sandals, and that way if it rains, I don't have to worry about my shoes getting wet. Where are we?
Denmark.
Koge? Is that
Koge?
That's where we left.
Yeah.
About 20 minutes into our ride, we passed this really cool castle. If you want to see where some of these photos are taken, some of them are overlaid on my Strava map, and I'll leave a link in the description below to those maps.
It feels like being in South Carolina or Georgia, but without the sweltering heat.
Throughout this part of the trail, we saw tons of cute farmhouses and just wildflowers, and we pulled up to this lighthouse on the coast. There are stairs if you want to climb up to the top, but I was saving my legs for biking. There are amazing views and plenty of picnic tables for lunch. About 25 miles in, we came across this harbor and decided to stop for some lunch. This whole ride has been super relaxing, peaceful, flat, and just tons of cute houses to look at and beautiful scenery. See the rain coming down out there. Well, we only got 19 miles. Yeah, it's coming down. Alright, we decided to just rough it and bike through the rain. This is our home for the night. We rented an apartment on Airbnb, and the host was super nice. She even did our laundry for us. There's plenty of space to store our bikes. And the best part is this place was only 1,000 kroner, or about $100. When traveling Europe, you can really save a lot of money by staying in the smaller towns instead of the big cities. We arrived late and a lot of the restaurants were closing, so we ended up just buying some TV dinners at the supermarket. Nothing but open road. Where are we heading?
Germany.
To the Bogo ferry?
Yeah, ferry first.
We both woke up super early, so we decided to get an early start to beat the rain, and we were on the road by 7. There weren't a lot of food options while we were biking, but just on the other side of this bridge was a little harbor with a cafe that had simple but amazing food. About 10 miles past this cafe was another harbor town with a lot of good food options and a couple large grocery stores. For every country that I bike through, I buy that country's flag on a sticker and stick it on my bike. So super excited to have Denmark as a new addition. So far on the trip, the signs have been plentiful, marking the Eurovelo 7 route. And the paths have all been generally paved and smooth. Couldn't ask for better bike infrastructure. We stopped by this beautiful church, which had very clean bathrooms, and we could refill our water. We're on our way to cross another bridge and then catch the Bogo ferry to continue our journey. So much of the land that we were crossing was agricultural, mostly wheat, and it's cool to see all the wildflowers attracting all the pollinators. We have to buy tickets first. The Bogo ferry runs once an hour, and we arrived just in time to be able to purchase our ticket and board. They even have a Eurovelo sign on the boarding path, just so it's clear that you're meant to take the ferry. After we got off the ferry, we had another 13 kilometers to go to reach our hotel. We've been biking a lot in the countryside and there haven't been a lot of restaurants, so when we stumbled upon a kebab shop, we stopped and had an early dinner. We arrived at our hotel at around 6 o'clock. We stayed at the Berlin House Bed and Breakfast. They also market it as a wellness center, so they have a sauna, a hot tub, beautiful gardens, and some fresh baked sweets. We did 63 miles today, which is great. The bed and breakfast had an amazing breakfast spread. They had 13 local cheeses, and that's what I was most excited to try. We just sat out on their sunny patio and had a relaxing breakfast. Today is the day we cross into Germany by taking a ferry to Rostock. It was an 18-mile ride to get to the ferry terminal, and for whatever reason we were running late that morning, so we really had to crank it. And of course, it never fails whenever you're in a hurry. This is when you tend to get lost. We were doing just fine biking on the cycle path, which was paved. For some reason, the GPS had us turning on to some other roads, which just kept getting narrower and narrower. Went from pavement to dirt roads, to sandy roads, to single track through forests. But we did manage to reunite with the bike path and get to the ferry on time. We were full on cranking it right here, doing about 15 miles an hour. We arrived at the ferry terminal just in time to buy a ticket and queue up to board. I guess it's to improve efficiency. It acts like a sail.
That's crazy.
I don't know if it spins the other direction when they reverse course. The ferry ride was about an hour long, and they had an all-you-can-eat buffet, which I highly recommend. It was pretty great just sitting in an air-conditioned room and watching the scenery go by.
Norwegian dogs over there. I've actually been on that shit in Alaska.
Exiting the ferry and navigating through the docks was a bit confusing, so I would recommend looking for someone that looks like a local and just following them. That beats going upstairs, I guess.
Yeah.
Especially with a loaded bike. There's a train station here in Rostock if you want to bypass some of the ride to Berlin. The signs marking the Eurovelo route look a little different in Germany compared to what we saw in Denmark. There are lots of things in Rostock to see and places to stock up on supplies, and I'd recommend doing so because the next 30 miles was pretty much just biking through forest. We continued biking and the roads just kept getting narrower and narrower. Watch out for stinging nettle. As I was biking up this steep incline, I kind of stalled out. And as I was getting off the bike, the weight of my panniers kind of threw the balance of the bike off because it was such a steep hill. So I ended up falling over and falling into a bunch of stinging nettles.
Yeah.
We arrived in Gustrow around 6 o'clock. We had a nice stiff breeze blowing through our hotel room, so we did some laundry and let it dry, and had a nice dinner at the hotel restaurant. The hotel is located directly across the street from the Gustrow Castle, but it was closed for renovation at the time. And that marks the end of day 4, 51 miles. The hotel had underground bike parking, and even these lockers with outlets in them so you could charge your e-bike batteries. We're starting day 5, and most of the ride until Berlin was biking through forests. If you're short on time on your bike tour, or if you want to just skip about 120 miles, I would maybe skip to Berlin. The forest is beautiful, and there were lots of cute cafes, but after a few days it did start to get a little monotonous. I guess you can decide by the photos and videos here if you want to skip this section or if you think it's worth it. For us, it was the challenge of biking from Copenhagen all the way to Berlin and not skipping any miles. can't feel the wind at all. We stumbled upon this really cool cafe. Check it out.
Where are we?
This place was super cool. It just felt like you were back in the 70s. I loved all the avocado green furniture and swag lamps. Their patio was nice and relaxing, and their food was amazing, especially given the few choices that there were out here. If you're in the area, it's definitely worth stopping by. I mentioned earlier that one of the pannier hooks broke on the rental bike. Now the entire back ripped off, and the bag got caught in the wheel, and we ended up with a flat tire. I've never seen a Dunlop valve before. I'm only familiar with Schrader and Praesto. We were getting swarmed by mosquitoes, so I quickly swapped in a Praesto tube and we were back on the road. We made it to the town of Waren around 7 o'clock. We found a hotel, checked in, did some laundry, had dinner, and that ends day 5. The hotel didn't have bike parking, but they had a locked cage out front, and that's where we kept our bikes overnight. We ended the day at almost 54 miles and almost 3,000 calories. Hello. Today was almost entirely biking through forest, just like this. I was not feeling well. I was tired and had a cold. We did 27 miles and I could not go any further, so we just found the closest hotel possible, and it turned out to be this amazing Airbnb. I've never been so thankful to have a bed. Our Airbnb had a separate bedroom, so I was able to quarantine and take a nap. We fried up some steaks, and we had a washing machine, so we were able to do all of our laundry. Day 6, we only did 27 miles, but I was fighting a cold and was definitely needing a rest day. We had leftover dinner for breakfast. I was feeling 100%, and we were back on the road, good as new. There were not a lot of restaurants or places to get food, but luckily we found this place that, even though it was closed Monday through Thursday, it worked on the honor system and we were able to get a couple snacks and drinks. This is the amazing hotel that we found for the night. It was a 2-bedroom apartment and a restaurant on site that's made from an old grain mill. They still have the original water wheel and the grinding stones inside. It seemed like we were the only ones in town. They opened the restaurant just for us. We had a lovely dinner on their patio, and we had solyanka. It's a tomato soup with sausage and pickles. Day 8. We are 50 miles from Berlin. A lot of today was just biking through forest again. I won't show you too much of that footage, but we did come across this amazing field of sunflowers. I think I'll put Brandenburg Gate since it's on our way, and that'll take us kind of through the park area too. And that's only 1 kilometer from our hotel. It's alright, because it's about 5 degrees cooler here. Final hour. Wouldn't want any skinnier tires than my 37s or 42s. Slowing, bike up. Yeah, this is Museum Island. We stayed at the Park Inn Hotel on Alexanderplatz. It's right next to the Space Needle. You can see it from anywhere in the city. We wrapped up day 8 at 54 miles. For the next 3 days, we just did sightseeing and went to all my favorite restaurants. This is Cafe Anna Bloom. Dropped off my friend's bike at the one-way bike rental store in Berlin, and I was hoping they had a bike box so I could fly my bike back to Copenhagen, but they did even better. They offered to take my bike free in their van, along with all the other rental bikes, and bring it back to Copenhagen for me. Later that evening, I could see my Apple AirTag showing my bike had already made it back to Denmark.